my gosh, look who it is. You're back. Welcome to week 5. This week's theme is a sense of possibility. We're almost halfway through. I'm starting to feel that halfway, even though literally last week, I guess I can eat my words because I said that I wasn't really feeling it. I took quite a bit of notes to share with you all. So, to get started, the very first section is called Limits. And I liked this one quote. You will explore how you curtail your own possibilities by placing limits on the good that you can receive. Then I got a little thrown off already. The rest of like the first 2 pages in this chapter just were repetitively God, 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 God. And for me, that's like a big turn off. It wasn't even like a slight rephrasing would be possible. I feel like even though at the beginning of the book, Julia Cameron tells you that you don't have to think of God as like a religious deity, you can just think of this greater power. She continues to use this very specific term, and the phrasing in a lot of the sentences, the structure just doesn't leave room for much more imagination, at least in my experience. There was another quote, though, amidst all the God mention. One reason we are miserly with ourselves is scarcity thinking. We don't want our luck to run out. I can definitely say I'm guilty as charged. I am constantly anxious, waiting on my luck to change, the tide to turn. If I have been having a lot of like good fortune recently, then I'm assuming that just around the corner is something really bad. And at least in my experience personally, when it rains, it storms. So I feel like I'm just always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And therefore, I also don't like to get my hopes up. I get really anxious and nervous to get ahead of myself because if I don't, then I can't be disappointed or I can't be as hurt as disappointed. There's also this other line. The desire to be worldly, sophisticated, and smart often blocks our flow. We have ideas and opinions about where our good should come from. Certainly, tying back to the previous sentiment, I feel like I have to be deserving of things. I feel like if I've been getting a lot of good, I can't possibly deserve more. I have like a threshold for how much I can be worth. And then to wrap up that very first opening of Limits, she reiterates again, maybe you're using your morning pages to answer questions. Because if you're like me, this did really resonate. She mentions that as you're going to bed in the evening, you're probably thinking a lot of questions. You've just gone through the whole day and you're recapping everything right before you fall asleep. And maybe you have questions. Maybe you want to ask yourself some things. And Julia recommends writing in the evening, which is something I've done quite a bit. Sometimes I don't do my morning pages in the morning, I do them at the end of the day. I realize that we've already established in the previous videos and weeks that the whole point of morning pages is to do them in the morning. So, very first thing to start your day is that you're unlocking or triggering that you're going to switch gears in your brain and you're going to start being more creative throughout the day. Sometimes I'm just already in the flow of things for the day, and so I don't do them right away. Sometimes I don't want to do my morning pages right away in the morning because I'm already in the flow of things and I don't want to pause and recalibrate to write them. I could see how they could be beneficial, but for me, I'm just like, that's gonna throw me off my flow. So I'll wait and then I'll do them at the end of the day as more of a reflection. But I certainly think there's a validity to her suggestion that maybe you should be writing at the end of the day and thinking of all the questions and things you've been kind of ruminating on so that when you wake up in the morning, you might find yourself with a new mindset and you will find the answers as you're in your morning pages. This was phrased as ask for answers in the evening, but listen for answers in the morning pages. The next subsection of this chapter is called Finding the River, and I'm just going to read from the very beginning of it. The shift to spiritual dependency is a gradual one. We have been making the shift slowly and surely. With each day, we become more true to ourselves and more open to the positive. To our surprise, this seems to be working in our human relationships. We find we are able to tell more of our truths, hear more of other people's truth, and encompass a far more kindly attitude towards both. We are becoming less judgmental of ourselves and others. How is this possible? The morning pages, a flow stream of consciousness, gradually loosens our hold on fixed opinions and short sighted views. We see that our moods, our views, our insights are transitory. We acquire a sense of movement, a current of change in our lives. This current or river is a flow of grace moving us to our right livelihood, companions, and destiny. So I know I said last week for week 4 that I didn't feel I was having a great reaction to morning pages. I wasn't sure whether that's because it's an experience I've kind of had already and I didn't vibe with it before, and maybe I didn't vibe with it before because I didn't commit as much. I didn't know if maybe it's just not for me. Maybe it's the way I've been going about writing them. Maybe it's that I don't always do them in the morning or that I've tried doing them in different ways. I didn't feel like my morning pages were helping me much other than just kind of untangling the web of ideas that I had at the beginning of the day or before I started something, just sorting out my thoughts. However, I do feel that I had a much better experience this week. I did my morning pages every single day again, and I found myself using them somewhat like a therapist. And also, I was dedicating my pages each day kind of to a more specific theme. Wasn't writing fiction, I wasn't doing anything like artsy and poetic, but I was just kind of delving deeper into a general theme rather than a vague stream of consciousness that was all over the place. I felt like it just helped me pour more of what I was holding in out and releasing things. I found this other portion of finding the river relatable. This newly positive attitude is the beginning of trust. We are starting to look for the silver lining in what appears to be adversity. Most of us find that as we work with the morning pages, we begin to treat ourselves more gently. Feeling less desperate, we are less harsh with ourselves and with others. This compassion is one of the first fruits of aligning our creativity with its creator. I think that it's just not divine timing, but right time, right place that I feel that week 5, I was finally coming into the flow of things. I've been a bit out of line and out of whack. Either I'm ahead or I feel behind. For the first time, I registered that I really am having a better reaction from this. I will say that week 4 and week 5, I did my morning pages every day, and I didn't do that in 3 and 4. I know I did them every day in week 1. I think I did in week 2, but I know I missed a day in 3 and I missed 2 and 4. So I definitely think that you have to try your best to do them as often as possible because I said that if you aren't committing, you can't expect full results. If I were to only do a third of the workout that my coach or trainer suggested, and then I expected to get the full results, of course I would not get the full results. This is the same thing, but for your brain and your creative self. You have to give what you want to get out of it. After the river, we move into a section called the virtue trap, and I have a lot more to share from the book from this section than I did with the previous. The artist must have downtime to do nothing. Defending our right to such time takes courage, conviction, and resiliency. Such time, space, and quiet will strike our family and friends as a withdrawal from them. It is. Just a quick pause. Literally last week, I was like, I need rest. I need to dedicate time just to myself and not necessarily being creative, but just investing in resting. And then would you look at that, huh? For an artist, withdrawal is necessary. Without it, the artist in us feels vexed, angry, out of sorts. If such deprivation continues, our artist becomes sullen, depressed, hostile. We eventually become like cornered animals, snarling at our family and friends to leave us alone and stop making unreasonable demands. We are the ones making unreasonable demands. We expect our artist to be able to function without giving it what it needs to do so. An artist requires the upkeep of creative solitude. An artist requires the healing of time alone. Without this period of recharging, our artist becomes depleted. Over time, it becomes something worse than out of sorts. I focused on rest last week because I felt that I needed it, not knowing that it was going to be a portion of this week, week 5, that I was going to focus on rest again. But to be quite frank, I needed it again. What I really need to work on is staggering. I'm really bad at just taking a bunch of things on and then it becomes too much. And I need to be better at kind of separating it all out and giving everything its own time. And that means dedicating time to rest, self care, whatever that looks like for you. What's the use replaces our feelings of joy and satisfaction. We may go through the actions of continuing our life. We may even continue to produce creatively, but we are leeching blood from ourselves, vampirizing our souls. In short, we are on the treadmill of virtuous production and we are caught. We are caught in the virtue trap. There are powerful payoffs to be found in staying stuck and deferring nurturing your sense of self. For many creatives, the belief that they must be nice and worry about what will happen with their friends, family, mate if they dare to do what they really want to constitutes a powerful reason for non action. So basically, what these next two pages are explaining is how we get stuck in this virtue trap. I watched myself do it today right before I started filming. We sacrifice ourselves and our needs for the sake of how we'll be perceived and how we can be in service of others. We think that, it's kind of like being a people pleaser. I'm only as good of a person as I can be good to others. And even though that's something I've tried to be cognizant of way before this week in this workbook, I certainly am guilty of it. And I find myself stuck all the time trying to decide if saying no makes me a bad person, if drawing a boundary and saying I can't give you more means that I'm not giving enough. This section goes on for like 4 pages of examples, and then it gets to a portion called the Virtue Trap quiz. I really hesitated when filling out this quiz because I don't think I was ready to be honest with myself. I didn't even want to write down or say my answers out loud, and I kind of came to find that honestly, most of my answers were the same throughout. So here are the 10 questions you're supposed to ask yourself. The biggest lack in my life is blank. The greatest joy in my life is blank. My hardest time commitment is blank. As I play more, I work blank. I feel guilty that I am blank. I worry that if my dreams come true, my family will. I sabotage myself so people will. If I let myself feel it, I'm angry that one reason I get sad sometimes is. Honestly, my answer for pretty much all of these is the fact that I hold myself back. And so it just kind of comes full circle in this section that I make excuses for myself. I put myself in a shadow artist position. I get stuck in a virtue trap and I validate me not pushing myself, me not investing in myself for the sake of giving to others. And that through and through all 10 of these questions is really the same answer then. I do find that I play it safe a lot of the time, and that is its own form of being self-destructive, and that I sacrifice and give up my own wants. And then I can justify, why I didn't do them or why I gave them up because I was doing something for something else. It was all an excuse in the first place. There's a small portion in this section that talks about being self destructive and how this nature of sacrificing yourself to others and giving up your wants is honestly self destructive. But most of the time, we don't consider it self destructive. If we were asked, are you self destructive? You might think, oh, no, I don't do these things intentionally to harm myself. But you are doing it and you are kind of doing it intentionally. Maybe it's more subconscious than not sometimes, but at some point, if you acknowledge it and you continue to do it, like if you're working through this exact week's exercise and you still continue to do it, then yes, it is self destructive. You might be familiar now with how in the first few weeks it was the rules of the road, but that's been adapted. Continuing on now in week 5, it's now the forbidden joys exercise as well as the wish list exercise. So there's 2 of them instead. If you've been following along the last few weeks, then you might be familiar with at the beginning, we were given the rules of the road. Now that's shifted and it's usually a different kind of exercise. However, in week 5, it's 2 of them forbidden joys and the wish lists. One of my favorite tricks of blocked creatives is saying no to ourselves. It's astonishing the number of small ways we discover to be mean and miserly with ourselves. When I say this to my students, they often protest that this is not true, that they are very good to themselves, not self destructive. Then I ask them to do this exercise. List 10 things you love and would love to do but are not allowed to do. Your list might look like. And then there's an example. I won't get into the nitty-gritty this time and give you my list, but I will say that I was actually proactive about it. Some of it was stuff I've been thinking about now for a few weeks as we've continued to do exercises, and at week 5, you're like, wow, how much longer really am I gonna put it off? So this week I went ahead and I bought a basketball. I haven't gotten to go use it yet, but I have been wanting to buy a basketball or a volleyball for literally years and just make time to go out and to do the thing. Similar to how I wanted to do skating more, I'd love to go skating more, so I'm thinking of it as an investment in myself. I also took the time to use my artist day and to get the things I wanted to get done and go to a coffee shop because again, I want to be like, oh, I can be at home and I don't need to spend money. It's always for me really financial constraints. I don't want to spend money. I shouldn't spend money. And this week I was like, no, I really need to be in a different space in order to also give myself a different headspace. So I went to a coffee shop to work for a few hours and there I was able to work on this video series. I worked on my exercises for a bit. I've been doing this certificate class, so I did my homework, and then I just gave myself some time to journal in general, and it was really, really nice. I'd also say that as a forbidden joy, one of my big goals has been having a podcast, and doing this video series has been a way of me working my way towards that. Every time I do another video, I get more comfortable, I get better at editing, I get to spend more time kind of ironing out the details of how I do or don't want things to work, and it just gives me a chance to really get into the swing of things. This video series in particular has also helped me to be more accountable, not just, making sure that I do it every week, although that's a big part of it, but it's also taking the time to like go through the workbook exercises more in depth, actually reread through the chapters and make sure I'm really ruminating on the words and the lessons. Otherwise, like most things, I kind of speed through them and I'm sure I miss a lot of the grit. The wish list exercise was one of the best ways we can evade our censor is to use the technique of speed writing. Again, last week there was a speed writing exercise. Because wishes are just wishes, they're allowed to be frivolous, and frequently they should be taken very seriously. As quickly as you can, finish the following phrases. And then it was literally just 20 sentences each time you were supposed to say I wish and then fill out the blank. Again, I'm not going to share this list with you because I think it's really repetitive of some of the lists that I've shared before, but I do find that it's been beneficial to be doing these things over and over and over again each week, because then it's like, okay, what is keeping me stuck? What is the benefit in being stuck? I feel like there's a lot of overlap from week to week, and that can be a little bit tedious or like underwhelming, but it's important to remember how crucial it is to just be practicing things in repetition, the value there is to be doing things over and over again. This might be the shortest recap we've had yet, but I'm expecting that next week, being the halfway point, is going to be very long or quite in depth. So we're already on to the tasks. Number one is the reason I can't really believe in a supportive God is, and then you're supposed to list 5 grievances. To keep things short and sweet, I put trauma, bad examples, the state of the world, and in general, it's just my definition and experience. I don't feel like it's really a word I'm interested in reclaiming or an idea I want to adapt. Number 2, start an image file. If I had either faith or money, I would try. List 5 desires. For the next week, be alert of images of these desires, and when you spot them, clip them, buy them, photograph them, draw them, collect them somehow. With these images, begin a file of dreams that speak to you and add to it continually for the duration of the course. Similar to last week again, I keep a pretty in-depth Pinterest board. I also keep a lot of screenshots in my camera roll, so this wasn't too hard. But what I wrote down for it was, most specifically, I want to try experimenting with my wardrobe more and sharing that experience. Number 3, a similar exercise to before. One more time, list 5 imaginary lives. Have they changed, and are you doing more parts of them? You may want to add images of these lives to your image file. I'm kind of just trying to do a little bit every day so it doesn't feel overwhelming. I haven't been like, okay, every week I'm going to dedicate so many hours to going to doing this, and that's part of this imaginary life. It's more so just incorporating little bits here and there, like trying to dress a little bit nicer on a particular day, get up and actually make my bed. I'm trying to spend more time learning different crafts, and so I don't want to just commit too much to one and then forsake all the others. So I'm really just doing a little bit of each. Number 4, if I were 20 and I had money, list 5 adventures. Again, add images of these to your image file. Overall, very simplistic. I don't need to list 5 unless you want to know 5 places I want to go, but I would travel. I would go everywhere and anywhere. And I mean, even little small towns. I want to see it all. Number 5, if I were 65 and had money, list 5 postponed pleasures. And again, collect these images. This is a very potent tool. So think of anything that you don't believe is accomplishable or that you want maybe even in the next few years, but that you see as a lifelong goal. For me at 65, I'd use money to rescue as many animals as I possibly could. And I'd like to work a lot with charities for education, young girls, LGBTQ+, the arts, etc. Really think of like a Dolly Parton kind of situation. I feel like it's really corny to say philanthropy, but the truth of the matter is that's where I would be happiest. Number 6, 10 ways I'm mean to myself are. Just as making the positive explicit helps allow it into our lives, making the negative explicit helps us to exercise it. Exercise as in exorcist. So I will share my list with you here. I put body shaming, imposter syndrome, excuses, my parents' voices, other people's opinions, just being restrictive in general in my spending and an earn it mentality, censoring myself when I don't practice simple self-care, which includes things like brushing your teeth frequently, washing your face, cutting or doing my nails when I think that they need to be done rather than putting it off, going to bed at a reasonable hour rather than staying up because you have FOMO. Number 7, 10 items again. List 10 items I would like to own that I don't. And again, you may want to collect these images in order to boost sales. Experts in sales motivation often teach rookie salesmen to post images of what they would like to own. It works. Trust me, I have plenty wish lists of things I would like to own, so here's just 10. A big mirror. A lot of these are related to the fact that we just moved too. So, a big mirror, a desktop, like a desktop Mac, a couch, a Switch, like for playing video games. I've never had one. New Yes paste. It's a type of glue. New pants, new glasses. In this particular instance, I'm not referring to eyeglasses. I'm thinking of like dishware glasses. A new car because we'd like to have a second. A bike, skates, like roller skates, and better groceries. Number 8. Honestly, my favorite creative block is TV, overreading, friends, work, rescuing others, over exercise, you name it, whether you can draw it or not. Please cartoon yourself indulging in it. I talked about it a lot last week because we were doing the reading deprivation. My biggest block is not specifically doom scrolling, but just spending an abundance of time on social media, consuming other people's lives rather than committing and contributing to my own. However, as I was doing my morning pages today, I also was confronting the fact that I really itch to use my free time kind of like doing some sort of exercise or adventure. I want to feel like I'm experiencing something, I'm being entertained, but I also use that as a distraction because what I need to do is lock my butt in my studio and work on my paintings. And so I'm trying to reconsider what the balance there is. Number 9, my payoff for staying blocked is this: you may want to explore in your morning pages. I knew it when I started this project. I can't expect that my answer has changed too bad. I just said I find comfort in being a victim. I find comfort in not changing my ways because it's scary to think about what could happen, what I'm not familiar with. And for me, like I said at the beginning of this episode and previously, I'm really nervous to get my hopes up and allow myself to be disappointed. Number 10, the person I blame for being blocked is I just put myself, obviously. But I did know by far, I do wish I had had a more nurturing childhood and I probably would have developed better habits if I felt like I had a better support system. I use that maybe as an excuse, but I do think that there's some validity to it. For the check in, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? All of them. Are you starting to like them at all? Last week I said I wasn't, but this week I would say I am. I just don't think I'm sticking to the strict morning structure still. How is the experience for you, and have you discovered the page and a half truth point yet? Many of us find that pay dirt in our writing occurs after a page and a half of vamping. When we were reading this before at the beginning of the week, my partner Jules said that that really struck the nail on the head for him. Once he hits a page and a half, he finds that he's really in the flow. He feels a little bit of resistance in the beginning, and then, of course, by the time you're at the end of the 3 pages, he's like, I feel like I could keep writing or I could keep going. I don't relate to that, but for now, I'll just say I don't relate to it yet. Number 2, did you do your artist date this week? And have you had the experience of hearing answers during this leisure time? What did you do for your date? How did it feel? And have you taken an artist date yet that felt really adventurous? It seems silly to say that it felt really adventurous to go to a coffee shop, but I kind of get into like this hermit mode where the longer I stay in my house, the harder a time I have getting out of it. Like make up excuses and it gets harder and harder to validate like actually going out. And so just breaking that and going out and being kind of frivolous and spending money on coffee and doing work somewhere I don't need to, but just because I want to, that was very beneficial for me. Number 3, did you experience any synchronicity this week? What was it? Try inaugurating a conversation on synchronicity with your friends. I feel bad because last week I was like, oh, well, I can't think of any. This week I also don't know if I can think of too much other than I interviewed for a new job and it was like one of the best interviews I've ever had in the way that it was really fulfilling. And they were like, you just feel like the fit. Like it felt like maybe this whole move and this whole idea I had that I needed a fresh start, I wasn't in the right place at the right time, I wasn't where I belonged, was right. And so I don't want to jump the gun on it. It just kind of felt like for the first time in a while, things were starting to fall into place. Lastly, number 4, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. A big part of this week was confronting your relationships. I don't even want to call it a serious talk because it didn't get to be with a friend and it really backfired. And so I kind of checked out of reality for like 2 days. I just needed time to recover and recoup. And now I'm coming off of that and I'm trying to use it as an opportunity to really confront myself more and think about where I'm trying to grow and what I'm trying to nurture. But that was certainly a massive roadblock this week. When I see you next, we will be at the halfway point. I haven't read the chapter yet. I'm going to do it as soon as I'm done with this video. I fell a little bit behind on my editing and posting because of said roadblock. I think as much as being at the halfway point could be really intimidating, I'm also feeling a sense of relief for having gotten this far and that, we're halfway there. So for now, I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with me if you have, and I will see you next week, hopefully. Thanks for watching.